Good evening. Today I'm going to cover three sad but true stories that I read in old newspapers. They're from around the country. Some are international, but these three stories happen all in the United States. The first story is about a lady named Stacy. Now, Stacy was very close to her sister Sue. They were living alone in their 20s because their parents had both passed away. Well, one day, Sue's sister died, and it was just horrible. And so she would go and visit her every day, sometimes twice in a day. But one day, people noticed that she hadn't come home. A friend went up to the graveyard and found that the gravestone had actually toppled down and landed on her, killing her instantly. My second story is of a man named Steve who had been drinking very heavily. He had been drinking so heavily that the bartender had attempted to take his keys. Unfortunately, he had a separate set. He did not get far when he hit a tree with his car. Apparently, he was quite dazed, and the police were already looking for him because they had been notified that he was very drunk and that they were worried about him. So when the police got the call, this small town, they got the call, Steve's hit a tree or whatever, there's a car that's hit a tree, and it's on the corner by the cemetery, which is it's a bad curve. And so they went up, and they're looking, and they see that there's signs that he had gotten out of the car, and they were looking for him and still continuing to look for him when the next morning the local man that does the funerals went up to the cemetery to check to make sure that the cemetery was all ready for a burial that was due to be taken that morning. When the funeral director went up there, to his dismay, he found Steve dead, already in the ground, in the grave that had been dug the day before. Unfortunately, he did not survive, and it turned out that he died of exposure when they did an autopsy on his body. My third story is of a man named Edward. Edward was a historian known for going to many of the local cemeteries, cleaning off the old gravestones, looking up the names, finding out information on the people that had been buried, and was known to go out for many hours at a time. So when it became evening and he still hadn't come home, his wife became concerned because he didn't do much when he was, when it's dark, you can't see. It's not good. It's not a good time to do anything like that. So she went out and she's looking for him, and she comes into the cemetery he said he was going to go to, and found his car. Went over, she's calling his name, Edward, and there's no response. And she sees his leg behind a gravestone, comes around the corner, and sees that her husband has been horribly attacked by bees of some sort. She can see there's still several around him, and she can see where there are several bee stings. She tries to resuscitate him and move him, but he's not alive. So the doctor did an autopsy and said that he had been stung multiple times and that he was allergic to hornets, and that he had died shortly after being stung, that he had been dead by the time she found him.